Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. Welcome to the Sunday live stream from Daishu-in West. I'm Koju. It's cooled off. It's October. It's mid-October already, and we actually had some rain. It looks like we're expecting kind of a late winter. If you don't know, it doesn't rain in the summer here at all. And then around this time, end of September, beginning of October, the rains start a little bit. And we had, maybe half an inch yesterday, which was badly needed. But I don't see any more in the forecast for the next, week, 10 days. So, it's looking like a mild winter maybe. Not the best thing for California. But can't help the weather now, can you? So, it's been my experience, my observation, my personal experience, as well as my observation, that most people function out of self-interest, which can mean different things, actually. But, there's sort of basic, simple self-interest, which is just like, is my life going to be better if I do this thing? Which often boils down to, if I do this now, if I exert this effort today, can I get away with exerting less effort tomorrow? If I work real hard for the next 15, 20 years, can I retire? Whatever the mission is, whatever the goal is, whatever the idea is, whatever the perception is, that we feel like is going to improve our life. And I feel like there are various, it isn't just like simple self-interest like this. Like, if I have the thing, then my life will be better. It will be easier. If I have, a refrigerator full of food, then I don't have to worry about food, for a little while. It's, if I have a silo full of grain, you're a primitive hunter-gatherer or something, and you're like, hey, this farming thing, seems like kind of a good idea. Maybe if we stopped hunter-gathering and instead cultivated this land, then we could stockpile grain and not have to worry about it, right? This is a kind of a basic example. It's like, okay, if we invest this energy into raising this crop, then we have some degree of security, and we don't have to work through the winter. We don't have to look for food through the winter when the crops aren't growing, and the food is harder to find. Whatever it is. And so there are various zones. It isn't just like for myself necessarily, but it's for my family, or a community, and you get into these larger scale conceptions of what are so-called self-interest. Just calling it self-interest because I can't think of a term that encompasses these sort of larger communities. This sort of zone zero, just yourself, and then your family, your community, and maybe your ethnic group, or whatever, and then the whole world as a whole. And different people function with different conceptions of what that means, their self-interest. Some people, have very altruistic, perhaps, views. And, their conception is larger, than just simple self-interest of my personal well-being, and they're more concerned with a larger vision. But I would still classify that, in the way I'm using the term anyway, as self-interest. It is larger. It isn't just myself. So it's a little difficult to understand, or not strictly accurate, I suppose. But it still is in its way, self-interest, because we're still dealing with a personal conception of oneself and what is good or bad for oneself, or the greater community that we're, concerned with. And so it still is a conception which is relating to myself. I behave in this way, I work towards this goal because, as far as like my conception can be, the world will be better if I meet my goal, if I work towards this goal, if I extend effort in this way. And there's actually nothing wrong with this. At any level, actually. I mean, it generally works out better in my experience for more people if people are not stuck in just simple self-interest. However, however big the circle is, where we call myself and we're looking for the, whether it's just my own body, mind thing, and I'm just simply looking for that to, succeed and thrive, or, if I'm more concerned with my family or my community or whatever it is, then, it is still like self-motivated, even if it's altruism, because we have this idea of what good behavior is for myself, and we operate out of that. And I think everybody has to try that and see how it works. But at the maybe this is letting the cat out of the bag here, but as far as I can tell, it only works out one of two ways, and that's either we're successful in working towards our goal, meeting our goal in some way, or we're not. And usually we're not. But sometimes, it can happen, that we are successful. And honestly, it doesn't, from my point of view, it doesn't matter, actually, whether we're successful or not. Whatever the size of our circle is, whether we're just motivated, for out of simple selfishness, or whether we're working in some altruistic way, and whether we're successful or not successful, the end result is the same, and that's frustration. all activity results in frustration. And it's true, it does. I mean, either we're successful in meeting our goals, and then we discover that they are not satisfactory. And in fact, there is no lasting satisfaction. There might be some temporary satisfaction. We found, okay, like we did a thing, and we might have had good effects. It's entirely possible. But there's still no lasting satisfaction to be found in that. Or, more likely, it didn't work out at all. Or it worked out sort of halfway. It worked out partially. And partially, it didn't quite go as we thought, and it's just kind of unsatisfactory. This is one of the three marks of existence, it's this unsatisfactoriness. And this is actually really, really awesome. The end result of all activity is unsatisfactoriness, is frustration. And this is very cool because that frustration is actually the motivation for practice. It is practice. I mean, straight up. But for the sake of this talk, we'll say that it's the motivation for practice, because it so clearly right there invites us to examine what it is, that is not working What is the problem exactly? Maybe we were successful. Maybe we, we did a great thing, and we were like, yay, we did it. And then the next day, we're like, well, now what? There's lots of people, who work their entire lives, for whatever, do 35 years at the same company, and retire, and they're now like, okay, now who am I? I was, in theory, successful. I did my job properly. I finished. Now I retire. That was always kind of the plan. That's what I did. Mission accomplished. And now what? And they have no idea, like, who they are outside of that context, because they spent their whole life there. There's not any satisfaction there. Like with all, human activity, actually. There's not going to be any lasting satisfaction. And that's very cool. So we start looking at the frustration. We're like, why? What's the problem? And the problem, of course, is that we're coming at it from a personal viewpoint. All these things are happening in context of I. And they all tie back to myself. And so the frustration, is because we're not actually perceiving correctly. We're not really meeting that as it is. Okay, we're still, we've been aspiring towards the goal for however long. I am going to accomplish this thing, and then that is accomplished or not, and now what? We haven't actually solved anything. I mean, provisionally, maybe we have. The people got, we got the retirement, or, we fed, 10,000 people that didn't have food, or, we helped people that, got washed away in the hurricane, or whatever it is. We might have done something very, very good that made a lasting good effect. I'm just saying that intrinsically, for a spiritual being, that even, doing a good work, is not lasting satisfaction. And we will always sort of, if we haven't practiced stopping, this habitual chasing after good works, even chasing after good works is still chasing after, then there will be dissatisfaction. So the frustration shows us, and this is why I say, the frustration, in looking into the frustration, it's already accomplished. We're already meeting, when it's frustration, and we're already meeting what is. And that's sort of the first thing that most people get, is this, suffering. It's called suffering for a reason. It's things don't happen the way we thought that we were going to be satisfied because we succeeded, and we're not. So there's suffering. We were not successful the way we thought we were going to be. Why weren't we successful the way we thought we were going to be? Like, this was supposed to go my way. There's suffering. And so when there's suffering, that's why that suffering, the first noble truth, there is suffering. Like, it's going to happen for a being. And it's an invitation. It is an opportunity to look into it. And in that way, it's also like the accomplishment, or the summation of practice. Because now, finally, we're actually paying attention to what is. And it doesn't, it's not my frustration, it's not anything, but what is just going on. And we are the I thing, the idea of a being, gets, if we're really looking at it, is burned up, or as Ursula puts it in Infinite Ocean, is melted. There's a melting that happens into that arising, in this case, frustration. And at the very least, even if there's still, a feeling of a person, and there usually is, that is frustrated because things are not going as they should, then it's motivation. It's motivation to stick with it. It's motivation to continue looking into it. Because as long as we have not, then the frustration is going to keep coming up. The suffering is going to keep happening. So, in terms of self-interest, it brings into sharp relief, it shows us, there's nothing really wrong with self-interest as it is, but are we having self-interest in the right way? If we're always looking to the next thing, if we're always looking somewhere else, for satisfaction, to fill the grasping thing, then we will always be frustrated. Then we will always suffer. But once we see, we get a little taste that that's actually not going to work out, then we can actually practice self-interest in a correct way, in a good way. And then it's not, then there's this melting, there's this burning up that happens, this disappearing into what actually is. And then we can say the self-interest, is, it's sort of, it's burned up too, or all things are, that. There's no differentiation there between myself, there's no, the circle becomes infinitely large. It's just the arising of the thing. So it's important. There's nothing wrong, with wanting things to be better for oneself, whatever that means, oneself, one family, one's community, whatever it is, and that's a good thing to work for. But in the end, what is proper self-interest? What is right self-interest? And it actually points towards, the release of the illusion of myself, or not getting caught up in the idea of myself. But inevitably, as far as I can tell, we have to pass through this suffering stage, this frustration stage, where we see that, in fact, whatever we pursue is going to result in suffering. And we have to come back over and over and over. We have to be frustrated and suffer over and over and over again to be reminded that, in fact, it isn't anything except what already is. And that doesn't mean we don't work, for things in the future. It doesn't mean we don't try and do good things for ourselves and our community and exercise this proper self-interest that I'm calling it today. Go out and vote, whatever it is, we do those things. And we exert effort, to make the world better for ourselves and for the people we care about. But moment by moment, burning up into what is actual, real, true self-interest. Okay. As always, if you want to reach out to contact the temple, you can write the contact at Daishu-in-West.org, and that comes straight to me. And I will be back. Actually, I may not be back. We're doing kind of a strange sesshin schedule this next week, so I think I'm going to be sitting in the Zendo at 1:30 next week. I have to double check on the schedule, but it's very, very likely that I will not do a talk next week. But in the case that I don't, I will be back online at 1:30. The following, which is already October 27th. Okay. Thank you for tuning in.